Oh, who's got the roll call right there? I think, Mr. Eads, you have the roll call, or just, you wanna?
Miss Tiffany has it.
Sure. Fred Dickey,
Here.
Mayra Hernandez. Here. Dr. Rodney Rodriguez.
Here.
John Villarreal.
Here.
Arturo Dominguez. Alma
He's on his way. He got caught up in traffic, so.
Alma
call.
Acevedo. Present. Rafael Duenas.
Here.
Julian Ratnowski.
He's absent today.
And Joe Maldonado.
Here.
Okay. Mr. Chair, you have a call.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, President. Before we start, I'd like to introduce our new member, Ms. Alma Acevedo. You want to tell us something about yourself, Ms. Acevedo?
Sure. I'm originally born and raised in San Diego, California. I moved to Laredo in 2006 from Miami. At the time, we were.
Oh, that's a big.
Yeah. There's a stint in Salt Lake City in between all that too.
Laredo is just like all those places.
And Laredo has grown on me significantly, yes. But if I had to pick out of the other ones, a second favorite would be Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City?
Salt Lake City's,
That's
yeah,
great.
great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
San Diego's my favorite.
San Diego's an amazing place, but living there is not what it used
Expensive.
to be,
No.
right? So yeah, it's changed a lot, and when I visit, I do see a lot of the differences that have happened since I grew up there. But we have a family business. We sell tools and machinery parts primarily to the automotive industry in Mexico. So the last few years have found me much more involved into what goes on in international trade. In that time, I've served on the Laredo EDC board. I'm an advisor and mentor at Mile One. I'm past president of Logistics and Manufacturing Association, and I'm actively involved with the NASCO, the North American Strategy for Competitiveness, which the city is a member of, as well as Laredo College, my company, IBC, among others.
Right.
I'm currently serving on TAMIU's Imagine 2045 Committee for Community.
Mr. Rodney, you know Mr. Rodney?
Yes, I do. We were just meeting on Monday. We just had a
Yeah,
meeting
we had
over
a
some
meeting
initiatives
over,
we
yeah.
have for workforce development.
Yeah.
And so I'm on the Imagine 2045 Committee for Community and International Engagement. And my primary passion is everything related to workforce development. So I always tend to focus on those types of things, and primarily happy to get more manufacturing here in the Laredo area, because it just, everything, it makes sense, but some things, there's just not, there's something not bridging that gap, so
I know.
hopefully it's something we can
It's
see.
been like that for a long time.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people before me, have they don't get it either, so we'll see how it goes, but I'm happy to be here. Hopefully
you're
stay
here.
quiet enough to learn from everybody and see where
No,
we're at,
we
what's
want you
going
to be
on.
outspoken.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
you bring a lot to our committee, and I think we look forward to you being an active part of our committee.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I object.
Very good. I don't know, we don't have the minutes.
Were they not sent?
Oh, I don't think I didn't see them, but maybe I should have seen. Okay.
If you'd like, I can run and print off. some of
Okay,
these.
yeah, if you don't mind, we can get those going. I guess we'll start with our agenda items here. The only one that we have is a report by our EDAC subcommittee. Our last meeting, we got four of our committee members to get with staff and to report on possible action on the proposed inner-city housing initiative policy. So Arturo, unfortunately, he got delayed at the bridge. I guess it's not business as usual right now, so.
It's not. We apologize.
He's on his way, no problem. I know I know the city, y'all are doing everything you can, and I was just reading an email that was sent, I guess, by the U.S. Customs Broker Association on what they're moving, about 750 agents out of Laredo, and, of course, a lot of impact. But anyway, getting back to our topic, Mr. Rodriguez, would you like to start the report, and maybe y'all can intervene?
And we have some committee members that were present as well. I know Julian's not here and Arturo's on his way, but we.
I don't know if you were there, man.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I was there.
I'm very sorry. I didn't know you were
I
also
was
there.
in the
Thank you.
committee. And also, the city staff was so gracious to host us, and we really do appreciate that. So Well, basically, what transpired was that, of course, the inner city housing plan was presented from the last meeting. The city staff took the time to go through it. All the representative departments were present at the meeting that needed to be there. We conversed basically on just the essential elements of the proposal and how that would work for the city. For us to be able to be successful in a program like this, and we can discuss a little bit of what was said, but primarily what it boils down to is that for one, this plan is coming from a pilot, or not a pilot, but a program from San Antonio, and so the scale of possibly this plan is not fitting the Laredo city due to the scalability of San Antonio versus Laredo. So that was one of the things that was mentioned, that maybe we can look into scaling it for Laredo rather than using a San Antonio program that may or may not work here in Laredo. The other element, of course, was the funding of the initiative, and right now, there isn't a sector or organization that
Funding
may,
source.
a funding source that may be able to assist in the lending. And please intervene if anything.
So the funding, how much do you, or I don't know if there's been a number that's out there of how much funding would be needed?
Okay, so this is Rosario Cabello for the record.
Thank you.
So, the Assistant City Attorney, Christian Rosas, and a few of us researched what San Antonio had initially. And when we looked at it, their initial draft, exactly what was here, did not flow through. So they amended it. They kind of went back and they looked at some things. So for the loan process, SA, Management Corporation, DT Community Development, Centro SA, all those different communities and committees or entities were able to assist in the funding of the loan. So it wasn't just San Antonio itself. San Antonio also has some other economic development funding sources, which we currently don't have right now.
Right.
As you know, we're looking forward to bringing forth in the ballot a 4A, 4B tax. Hopefully in November, I'm not sure, hopefully it's in the legislation right now.
It'll be up to, so it'll go to the legislation, but then it's got to go up for a vote.
For a vote,
Right.
correct. And so right now it is in legislation. We presented on the House side by Representative Raymond, and on the Senate side by, of course, Safran. So she's carrying those bills. And so once we make sure that they follow through, then we'd be ready for a referendum this November. Once that's done.
I'm sorry, real quick. I don't know if there's some members that maybe aren't aware of the
Inner city housing,
inner city housing policy. I don't know if you want to go through some of the
just an overview.
points, or if you want me to go through some of the points.
Okay, so Julian presented us and we can also email it to you all, an inner city housing incentive policy
Yeah,
that was
it's
mirrored.
this one right here.
Right.
Yeah.
If I can get that, that'd be great.
Perfect, so we'll go ahead and email that.
Yeah.
And so what he did is he mirrored it exactly like San Antonio, where there would be waivers in some areas. For example, he stated, in the utilities department, impact fees. Well, the city of Laredo doesn't have impact fees right now, so that would be a no. I mean, even if we wanted to waive it, we don't have that.
Don't
Then,
have an impact what?
we don't have a water impact fee.
Maybe after today they might.
Right. Okay, another thing that they wanted was to be able to do 15-year tax abatements. By law, we cannot do 15-year, we do up to 10 in most cases.
And that's what our NEZ is 5 and 10.
Yes, the
right?
5 and 10, and so we do have that tool called a neighborhood empowerment zone tool, which developers, yes.
Why don't we have a 15-year, is that a state deal that we
State
can't
law.
have? It's law.
It's state law.
It's state law.
Yes, sir.
Right, for an abatement through this particular period. So we're not going there.
I'm sorry for
No, we're not going there on that one, we even if we wanted to consider it. And that's why the city of San Antonio did not adopt a 15-year, they went back and they did 10. That's why they didn't adopt it. Then they want to be able to do development loans with 2% interest, 5-year loans calculated per housing unit.
Right,
And this is in the downtown area.
right.
And so the way we set
2%
2%, it says 2% interest on 5-year loans calculated for the housing units. Okay? And so we said, well, how are they funding it? Because I know that we can't
Right.
fund it through a general fund or property taxes. That would not be something we would do. So the city of San Antonio utilized several 501c3 corporations to be able to come in and be able to do something on a consolidated basis and say, let's go ahead and offer this type of loan. That's something that we don't have right now, that the city of Laredo or other entities around the city do not have either. They did this also through Central SA. And so perhaps they did it through they did do it through an economic development revenue source, which we don't have at this point. Right now, we
So
don't.
what's, I'm sorry?
Economic development tool.
They had another funding resource that they could borrow.
Yeah,
from.
I know that
What are
Julian
those
has brought up
sources?
the thought of maybe
To a tourist.
some of the tourist funds.
Okay, so this is what's interesting. How do we go about doing that? Because the tourist is meeting and they have other priorities. They have to be able to put additional lighting, additional sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, they don't have enough revenues. It's gonna take a while for them to generate enough revenues to be able to do some of the improvements in the downtown area. Their mission may not be the
So
same
there's no
as your
money
mission.
right now.
Now, so even if we were to do, for example, a tax abatement, which is freezing taxes, it goes against what the other committee is doing, which is wanting to have taxes so that they can build upon doing downtown improvements. So we kind of need to look at these two committees and say, what do we really want to do? Because y'all are saying freeze it, and they're saying, I need more money, and so we're working against each other in these two committees. Yes.
What do they do in San Antonio? And I know we're not San Antonio, we're much smaller. But how do they develop
Is
their,
there a way that
how do they develop the 501Cs to,
They,
we could mimic somebody else's success?
yes.
And I'm sorry for the record, I don't know this gentleman here.
Christian Rosas, I'm one of the assistant city attorneys.
Okay.
So, if my recollection serves me well, and I can kind of brush up and send the research via email, but the city portion was, they didn't do it via tax abatement, they did it as a kind of a reimbursement loan, so the source of funding, and that's why they were able to do 15 years, the source of funding was basically the added tax that they would get on the improvements, they would set aside in a fund, and then you
A revolving-
you would get reimbursed basically what you paid in taxes on the added value. And so it's not that you don't have to pay taxes, that you pay and you get reimbursed. And so that's why.
They build upon that for future.
So that was
Okay,
the
in other
funding.
words, they develop and expect,
You know,
I'm slow, so.
No,
They
that's
would
still
develop,
working.
they would develop, and then when they did it, then they would take that ad valorem tax to pay for whatever they wanted to do.
Correct. The money would trickle in from the added value taxes, and then that would be used to then pay back. Oh,
No, you can continue.
Oh,
I'm waiting
sorry.
for the stopping point.
no, that was the funding source for that. The funding source for fee waivers, I think San Antonio, their ordinance, at least for water impact fees, they have an ordinance that says you can waive up to a certain amount, millions of dollars worth of impact fees a year over a 6-year period, and so this program kind of fell in line with that. They already have an allocated amount of fees that they can waive. And then the portion that was, I guess the trickier part, which is the loans,
Yeah.
that was mostly privately funded, and so they had all these either private entities. I think the city may have provided some sort
A
of,
little bit.
a little bit of seed funding, but they had outset, they needed at least $10 million, or at least that was the proposal of a set-aside fund to be able to disperse this loan program, and most of it was through, philanthropic efforts, private entities, and some collaboration with the city and economic development tax funds, but that was not really general fund city money that took care of that portion of the program.
Okay, my question, I guess it's several, but the first one, do we have like a target demographic? Is this low-income housing? Is there just one
Okay,
section
so
of Laredo we're
they
talking
said
about for the
inner
inner city?
Yeah.
This is inner city, so inner city is District 3, District 4, and downtown.
and now, and he
Downtown
does
in
make a
being El
distinction.
Azteca and this side, or just this side?
That's part of District,
Yeah.
gosh.
Now, the other thing is they do make a distinction of the central business district, I guess he,
Let's see. where
because
is
he
it?
does, there's he makes a distinction between, like on
See.
several, there's certain fees that would apply to, like in this case,
He talks about NEZ, it applies to density rental and for sale housing within the NEZ zone. So the NEZ is District 3, 4, and downtown.
see, but he makes a distinction between the central business district. So there's some, he says you incentivize, or the policy here, you would incentivize the central business district a little bit more. So, the other alternative, I spoke to Arturo Garcia, and the other thing is, I remember at one point, now I'm not in that department, I do commercial lending, thank God, I don't do the mortgage, but I remember we used to do downtown, do down payment assistant, there's down payment assistant programs. I know Compass, for banks, what they call this CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act, it's very important, we need to.
Yes.
So we could look at those efforts, because, I can understand where it's hard, right now money is tight everywhere, right? But look at those efforts, that might be a win-win, maybe some of these, we can look at some of these programs, and maybe that's some of the collaboration that you saw.
So, Mr. Chair, one of the things that came out of the meeting was the focus on just really brainstorming to see how would this plan fit a Laredo model. That was basically what came out of it.
What is difference in Laredo and San Antonio? We both have a high Hispanic people. We are not as wealthy, that's a given. We don't have the tax base, but what from theirs can we take and use for us here?
They have different tools that they're utilizing, and tools that are coming forth hopefully in the future for us, such as.
Oh, we are having tools now.
No, they have tools that we don't have. They have, for example, the philanthropists that are coming in, we don't have that here. They have economic development taxes, we
So
don't
like
have
the
that.
philanthropist, let's see, tell me a little bit, I don't know, tell me.
It's just private.
Private
entities.
monies.
Private money's
You
coming
can-
in.
okay.
Private money's coming in.
I'm sorry,
Didn't the code of ethics just change though?
We can do it now,
We just
right? We can.
Well,
We can do
it
what?
has to be $10 million.
Yeah, no, that's
$10 million.
for,
But
that's
they
more
started
for
at $10
business
million.
travel
Doesn't
and
mean we
stuff like
started
that,
at
but
$10
this
million,
is,
Yeah.
this would be more along the line to, the money there would not benefit the quote-unquote politician, would benefit more the
The
end
citizen.
user of
The
the
citizen.
property. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I'm still not clear on the objective. Are we looking at inner city housing for low-income families, for young adults?
It's
You
market
mentioned
value.
Yeah.
Market value, and you're talking about the millennial.
Yeah, I
community.
think
So we're
it's
going
that's the
to
same with
low
those.
income.
to attract
College.
young
That makes
people
sense.
to
To
downtown,
attract anyone.
central business
At
district
the
to
end of the day, you
live.
want to attract the middle
Including-
class,
And
lower middle class.
because we're talking about a mortgage, possible mortgage assistance. And then, so the idea is to create housing that is for sale, not rental units. Is that also the
Yeah,
objective?
see, in
So,
here, based on the
affordable
policy.
housing for young adults to purchase, to enter
Yes,
as
definitely, we
home, to
need.
begin their homeowner journey.
which
Well,
is
both,
what
I don't make
most-
it both.
It's rentals and home.
Yeah,
Is
but-
there any talk about,
But the young are
splitting
gonna grow
that?
in.
Yeah, reading from the actual policy,
Yes.
it states in here that the ICHIP, which is the Inner City Housing Incentive Policy, incorporates the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. We have a comprehensive plan, we got some very good, I don't know if you were part of that plan, Ms.
No,
Acevedo.
no.
And provides greater incentives to housing projects within targeted growth areas in the inner city. And they mentioned, District 8 and District 1 and the Central Business District. The policy encourages historic rehabilitation, adaptive reuse, brownfield redevelopment. I don't know what brownfield redevelopment.
It's a land that has had problems with chemicals or,
Okay,
and
I got you.
we're-
And market rate housing. So that's where like the low income, and I know that it mentioned also the student housing. I spoke to Rodney about, what we hear is that LISD wants to move out of the St. Peter's area. I mean, they have a need for housing, they're close to, so maybe collaborate to see how we can make that happen.
Yes, sir.
I don't live downtown. I would think it would be in all our best interest, like the LISD housing. If somehow, and I mean also to is encourage people, because we keep developing land out there. Why don't we encourage people to move downtown, there's somebody remodeling house, and let's start taking these beautiful old
Well, that's what this is for.
Okay.
That's what this is, yes, ma'am.
Sorry, is there any talk about what we're gonna do about the lack of food in the
Yes,
downtown area?
actually-
Is that also involved in
No,
that, or is that?
this-
And you gotta have something down
This
here.
is
You
not-
have, you have.
Yeah, let me tell you what we're working on, not to stay off topic, Councilman Valley's District 8. And so we're looking into different entities. He's already quoted Walmart does not want to come in. The outlet center is saying, well, how about a mini Walmart somewhere? That's 5-6 years down the road where they would even consider us coming in. So there's a conference in Nevada coming up soon that we want to attend to see if we can court some smaller mom and pop market, food marketplaces, because that is needed
Okay.
before we even go there.
On this DC trip with the city, at the beginning of March, I happened to attend the Housing and Urban Development meeting with Arturo Garcia. And there are some programs, unfortunately, I don't have any of those things with me, but there are some possible monies available. I think the city already has experience with certain funds, I don't know the names. But among the things that were discussed were possible co-ops that could also tie into workforce development. And those are options. I just, I might be premature on making an opinion, but
No,
just
no,
what I'm hearing
please
right
do,
now,
please do.
because I've seen the downtown businesses that are opening, and to bring even people to go live there, especially young people, if we don't have the food, I mean, a lot of people don't go to the downtown,
Very
you know,
good point.
bars, because there's no type of food and drink. Siete Banderas eliminated their kitchen and is now just a bar. Because there's not people that want to go maybe after work, that have worked downtown, other than with the Cultura Beer Garden, there's not, you don't see a bar restaurant where we could go have a nice meal and then go to a bar or two for the rest of the night, however we see fit.
Are essential.
Yes, and so I think that, and it would be nice too, to kind of jump base, there is that inner city housing summit on the 24th. I think attending something like that would better educate me to understand this.
And we're hosting
of course,
a lot of
reading
it.
through it. Yeah, reading through it would be nice, but just from the little bits and snips I got.
That would be good.
It would be probably best to hear from some of those experts. I know they have like a full day of experts. It's to see how they.
3 of our employees are part of
Including
the
our discussants.
Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
and I
yes.
think Julian's also on a,
on the panel.
on a panel.
Now, one of the things that I'm doing right after this meeting at 1 o'clock, which I'll have to excuse myself, is meeting with people from Section 108 loan. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but basically it's housing, mid to lower income housing loans for us, for the city to be able to work with someone, an external party also. Just, that's how we did the Hamilton Hotel. That's how we renovated. We got
So
someone
that,
who was
so that
interested in
would
doing.
come into maybe some of this
Well,
funding or not?
No, not at all. This is the city and an external partner working together towards renovating a facility.
Oh,
for rental.
just a particular facility, not,
A particular facility. And we already have one in mind. And so that would help in bringing people downtown, but we're also very well aware of that we have a lack of food. What's it called?
The food desert?
A food desert.
Yeah.
And so we know that too. So before any of all these, I'm glad we're moving forward towards it, but we need to take care of all these other things too.
I'm 70 years old, will we see anything before I die?
I hope so, because we want to get this all
I mean,
done.
my kids are born here, my grandchildren, I like it here.
I love it here.
I'm not.
It's home.
Downtown's
It's
actually
home, I was
gorgeous.
born here too, you know, so it's, you know,
Yeah.
man, I mean, that fun
He
stuff.
wants our business, do you want to do business with him? He owns a funeral home somewhere.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll make sure to
Yeah.
put everything
People are
right,
dying to
because my
see how-
insurance is in place, but the will is not, so thank you for
You better,
motivating
you
me.
better have
You got
wars,
an
all
attorney.
the biggest fights are families.
You what?
So
You got an attorney for the.
You do have an attorney.
ultimately, what we agreed on is to come back to our NEZ Neighborhood Empowerment Zone, because we do have this in place, come back and strengthen it a little bit more and see if for now, we could do something with it and say, okay, well, we're offering whatever.
You know, just
And-
complement it.
Well, right now, we're offering fee waivers,
Right.
we're offering 5-year and 10-year of tax abatements
Yeah.
within the area.
That's
One of the other things we need to do, and we need to work on it during this, between the next meeting is get with the county, because before we had the tax incentive, the tax abatements of the city and the county. And the county, I guess, very easy, you know, nobody's looking, so just drop it, you know, so we need to go.
They're in a moratorium is what they told us.
Yeah.
And at that Housing and Urban Development meeting in DC, one of the things that was brought up, and again, I don't exactly know the term, but there was where the county created some districts for a particular type of funding, and downtown was left out of it. So we have to look at that too, because it has to do with federal funding and look at that, and I think that was something that was brought up. And Olivia Varela from LEDC was there as well, so she was helping point out the area, and I don't recall, and I'm sorry, I'm not informed or prepared for this particular meeting, because I found out about an hour before, I got to work yesterday, found out Monday afternoon, got to work yesterday, and then I was told at about 11:10 that there was a meeting at noon, so I'm just happy to be here. So there are some other things at play that we could also look at. I don't know how long this committee's been working on this project. I don't know if there's room to allow, Rafa, are you up to date with this? Because I would like to be able to be up to date, especially with that event on the 24th. Well, yeah, to help everybody, but downtown would do a lot for the
We're one
entire
city,
city.
really, we're not
Yes.
different, we're really one city, we're one
Yes.
people.
I'm all for a beautifully restored
So
downtown.
the final recommendation, Chair, is that, that we look at the NEZ, that we see where we can complement or add additional incentives that would complement the renovation or have a pilot at least
Okay.
started to see if there's something that can be done with the existing NEZ.
Okay.
Okay, let me ask
And
you.
city has already assigned staff, because I think that was the other challenge in the
Correct.
past with the NEC. They had not allegedly moved forward because there was no real staff
No one was
training
assigned,
or
yeah.
assigned, and now there
Okay,
is.
well, is there anything that, not just San Antonio, anybody else does that we can make ours, but use kind of their skeleton, their bones, you know, to put together something?
Like we
for
did
us?
with the NEZ with Fort
Fort Worth, yeah, we designed our NEZ from Fort Worth. Is there anything, you know, and ask staff to develop something that would be ours from what's done other places?
Well, we already feel that based on what we have something in place. So it's up to the committee to decide what else do you think we can have, because
What do we have
we're
in
there.
play other than the NEC?
Well, the NEZ has a tax abatement.
Right.
The NEC has a permits.
Yeah.
We're
See,
waiting on the loans, so that, we're waiting on
That's
that.
the only thing, I'm trying,
Oh, I
I'm
see,
looking at
it's the
this.
money.
Yeah.
The money.
That's it. We're waiting for that to occur.
The money is always the
Really, looking at this policy, I mean, we already got the fee waivers. Maybe we don't have all the fee waivers, so
Right.
that's something we
You
can
can
look
recommend.
at. The abatement, we talked about just going 10 years, so we have that on the commercial side of it, or a dollar amount, I don't know, there's a certain dollar amount that the abatement goes up to 10 years. I forgot honestly.
10?
What triggers the 10 years, as opposed to 5 years, I don't know if it's residential, commercial.
If I may, I think for commercial, I want to say for the first 5 years, the investment has to be a minimum capital investment of $100,000.
Right.
And then I think it goes to 140 for,
So there's a dollar amount, based on dollar amount, you can go from a 5 to a 10-year abatement.
correct. And so I think that's one of the things that was also discussed.
Y'all want to get some food by the
Yeah.
way? Y'all can.
Was like looking at the current NEZ, at the results, how much commercial development has resulted, how much residential development has resulted, and what are the levels of investment that trigger the abatement, so maybe they're too high and maybe we're not encouraging the right type of development, or at least the type of development that we want to see moving forward, and so maybe it's adjusting the threshold levels or including or excluding certain type of development so that we can focus what we want these areas to be, but at least the NEZ already has the structure and the zones are already kind of identified and they overlap with what we were talking about with the incentive program.
So, sorry, let me ask you this, for the NEZ, the current one, how could we incentivize someone to possibly build for like student housing or just specifically for like students in this area? Is there anything that
Well,
we could?
that's what the TERS is trying to do
Okay.
also. And so in them getting together, and maybe somehow we maybe get
Yeah,
both of you,
yeah,
Few members
that
of you will
committee,
talk
yeah, or a
for that.
subcommittee at least for.
For both.
I know Arturo Garcia, Henry Sylvan, or part of the,
Yes, Henry, yes.
Yeah.
And so
Not a lot
is there,
of colleges in Dallas do that,
Right.
especially Dallas Baptist in Mountain View, which are no cliff, which is
Everybody
a
got one?
low income. They'll have a couple of apartments and
Everybody
houses
got
that
one?
they
Like,
send students to. So you can look to that and see, you can help us out from there.
well, yeah, I mean, I think it's what you said. I think that we need to be all speaking the same language. And what's happening, in my opinion, is that I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the different groups or committees.
I agree.
And Mr. Chair, I think that maybe us coming together as some representatives of this committee, the other committee, and the city coming together, maybe we can start planning something in that
Okay.
respect.
so I don't know how that can be without getting a quorum, Ms.
For both.
I'm sorry.
Talk to our legal department.
Or
Or two chairs talking,
You know,
maybe two
but
chairs.
looking at the NEZ, I don't think it's within the NEZ purview of having the loan part, because we have the abatement part, we have the waiver part already in place. But the loan part, I mean, I think we need to look at some of the banks, maybe look at, like you said, look at some private money that can come in to form a 503C.
So one of the things I was looking at is that they're recommending to forgive some of those loans on the person. I think that should not be something that we would really look at. In case we're gonna go the bank route, or even with the church themselves, I looked at the proposal and it says that some of it is forgivable.
Okay, yeah.
I wouldn't recommend
At
that.
the end of the day, I mean, they need to, you can do some sort of an assistance, but that's where, I think that's the whole, right now, that's what's stopping everything, is just the funding part on having monies to rehab and how we can, because we do the abatement where you don't pay taxes, we do the waivers where you, but to do the shot in the arm.
And the criteria, like how do you qualify someone who, only banks know, we're not in the business of
Right.
lending, so we wouldn't know the criteria for lending money.
So that's what we need to go there.
Vulnerability.
I just thought of something, and maybe we have thank God we have a banker. I know mortgages are done at certain interest rate. Can somebody put together an interest rate that if you come downtown and invest and buy a home downtown, your interest rate you'll save X on your, after your credit score and all that, so then you save on your interest rate, I don't know, 0.5%, whatever it is,
Yeah, and-
to incentivize somebody to buy.
That's
that.
what we need to look at. I talked to Arturo, I know he was gonna talk to Jimmy Knotson from Compass. According to, they had some CRA issues, so there's programs out there. Maybe we can look at our bank, but we need to look at some of the national banks, the Chases, the BOAs, and some of those that might have programs already in place that we can try and tap into and not be, look at that. Yes, ma'am.
And to Mr. Dickey's question earlier, I know, I'm not sure what San Antonio's
Right.
poverty rate is, but I know that our poverty rate is aligned more with Detroit, and Detroit being another land port. There are some programs that they have going, mainly because they have private donations. I know the Quicken Loans owner has done a lot for their downtown, to the point where they're developing Midtown. And that's where all the new stadiums, everything's, happening. And I know there was last year, there was a convention center talk, so if you think of those types of growth
That's a good
projects.
idea to start seeing what they have. too.
Detroit, and I have, there's some I have on my phone too, I don't remember what they call, but I have pictures because it's I think they call it business improvement zones. They have a logo, you look at, I was walking from the hotel to the convention center, and they have a sign, building's gonna be occupied, and they have the same logo going. So Detroit might be a good model to look at to see what they're doing. Those are more, loft renovations. I think they're very high-end housing. It's turning very high-end there, but it's, again, beautiful historical buildings in downtown in a poverty-stricken area that we're talking about 30% like us. What's San Antonio's percentage? I don't know, but I look at port city comparisons. LA and New York are at 18% versus Laredo's hovering low 30s. I think it's 32 more or less. So that's where we're aligned. As another port city is Detroit. It might be better to compare to Detroit versus maybe a San Antonio.
Okay.
Good point.
So I think we can look at the NEZ like Dr. Rodriguez said, but we also need to look at funding sources. So I don't know who would be the best person to look at different, from banks, I mean, I can, just off the top, the Faskin Group, I mean, they believe in downtown, they stay, Ms. Faskin, they're the ones that own La Posada, I mean, she.
They tried, they did it. There was-
And, no, and honestly, I think it's still on, they might still go through with the convention, I mean, right now, they're good, they're making, they're making a lot of money up in the Midland area, so they might have funds that they might be one of the private investors that might want to pump money in.
Not on topic, where are we with the plaza?
For the Plaza Theater? Okay.
With the what?
For the Plaza
Plaza.
Theater. So we brought in Centico to come in and look to see if they were interested in a potential movie theater, and they felt that the venue was very small. And so we're looking at, we need to renovate it. We know that, we need to renovate it. And we have funding that we've identified.
What is the capacity, seating capacity? And because I'm getting to something that I saw this weekend.
I don't know, I don't recall. I guess
Can you
it
sit
just depends on.
1,500?
Okay, right now, so you think about it, and it's gutted, completely gutted except for the walls.
Okay, so
So it depends what we do.
I'm just wondering what the seating capacity is, because you could do, and I hate to bring up Sancho, but I went there to see a play. And we could have smaller venue plays.
The Majestic.
Yes.
Yeah, I went to
Okay,
Majestic.
so we've looked at that, and what we don't have right now is available staging for them to change their costumes and do what they need to do, because it was a movie theater. So we're looking into maybe buying on the sides. The city does have money, we sold a bond in 2014,
Oh,
where we do
cool.
have some money available, and so now we're trying to reach out to see if on the side, towards the back, there'd be something for us to be able to extend and do something like what you're talking
And
about.
Rodriguez on one of the ends?
Yes,
They're not very charitable, are they?
well, I'm on camera. So we are actively
You're on the
looking.
spot.
We're actively looking at that. Councilman Bali is very instrumental, and we're pushing it together. We really are.
That might really kind of help also, because,
Working with the schools and bringing plays in.
you know, just smaller event, I mean, it's a smaller event, but we're not as big a town as they are, you know what I mean? So, but that might fit us.
But
Well, you can't compare us to San Antonio and then say we're not.
But all this discussion about, the revitalization, bringing in all these good ideas, and incentivizing people to come to downtown, it's a very good start. We just need to morph it into a living activity and not just discuss it. At least a portion of it, maybe start with a pilot or something to that effect. So that way, we can show, and we could have data that says, okay, look, investor, we did this pilot, we strategized, we worked together, this is what incentivized this individual to renovate it. Now, what can you do, or you want to come in, or, so I think we just need data to be able to, but data for Laredo, you know what I mean? Not from anywhere else, that it works here, that we want you to come to downtown, we want to revitalize, and we're serious about it, so.
Now, let me ask you one other question. I hear San Antonio has an abandoned property tax or penalty. Do you know if they do, and whether can we implement something similar? Because that way, but not only have the penalty, but also, okay, look, we'll help you rehab. Okay, I know it's expensive for you to rehab, but we can't just keep some of these buildings vacant,
I know this is part of their plan, right? The economic development plan that they had, San Antonio, was rehabbing the downtown
I
area.
think so, I don't
But
know.
part of it is
There wasn't a
penalizing people
Yeah.
for just having I guess their zoning, we might already have the ordinances in place, some sort of a vacant property penalty or.
Mr. Chair, if memory serves me correctly, I think there was some money set aside by the city a while back that was like an incentive for those landowners to like redo their parking lot or their
Downtown.
something like that.
Yes,
But
and
that no
not-
one took advantage
No one
of
took
it.
advantage of it, so we had to repurpose
I
that money.
remember that.
I have a question before, I know you have to go. You did mention 4A, 4B. Is part of the draft that was presented, is that incorporating 4A, 4B monies?
So we have a 1/4% sales tax to be able to do certain things. The voter already voted towards the financing of the LEA, the baseball, and the sports complex.
Sports venue tax.
Sports venue, yes. The sports venue. But there's also a sports complex that needs to be built, the baseball / whatever. And so, and their operations. So that's, if we get a 1/4 and then do an 1/8, keeping that, and then the difference of whatever we generate towards economic development. Whatever council sees fit, whether it's job creation, whether it's housing loans, whatever that fits into the 4A or 4B
Yes.
that we decide for economic development as a tool is what's going to occur.
Okay, but is 4A, 4B mentioned in the draft that was presented for this
No.
inner?
No.
Okay, I was, okay.
No.
Okay.
It's not available.
No, I understand, but is that, we're talking about funding
Well, if it
options?
does in the future, I'm sure.
I just didn't know if it was being considered
Yeah.
for this, because my understanding
No.
is that it would be considered for incentivizing businesses to create jobs,
Right.
not so much inner city housing. So
And-
that was a
Oh, I
concern of
see.
mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was mentioned,
Yeah.
No,
because
and
you
it
mentioned it, I didn't know if it was
No.
with the intention for this. Okay,
No,
okay, thank
no, it
you.
wasn't. And so I'm looking at Detroit. Of course, we'll have to do some additional research, but they talk about property tax exemptions.
Okay.
They talk about tax waivers, utility waiver fees, and up to 10 years of abatements.
Okay.
That's what we
I
have.
have, this is called
So if there's anything else, maybe,
Business Improvement Zone, and here's just a trash can right here, but I also have, they have a truck, they have a trash can, I didn't take a picture of the building, and it says caring for our downtown, Business Improvement Zone.
And it's really more the type B, tax, opposed to the type, I think type A is more industrial.
yes.
So it's really more the type
Type
B,
B.
that's for all projects. So essentially, all projects can include what we have right now, which is a sports venue. But I don't know if you have to sunset that debt in order for it to go to the taxpayer, or I don't know what mechanism you need to have, maybe our attorney here can assist. That you need to sunset the sports venue tax and.
That's with bond council, so.
Yeah, so we have a bond council for that, so that's not my
Okay.
wheelhouse, but I do know that there has to be some either mechanism. I think what they're trying to do at the legislative level is to allow us to have both. So basically, an election for us to have, from the 1/4, a percentage of it be still for sports venue tax, and for the other portion to be 4A, 4B, because technically you can sunset the debt, but once you do that, then you can't collect the sports venue tax
Or
anymore.
M&O.
Yeah, and so you have the potential issue of, you sunset the debt, you can no longer collect that 1/4%, and then the voters say no to the 4A, 4B tax, and now you're without a 1/4 for sports, and you're without a 1/4 for 4A, 4B. So that's the problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I would like to read the draft and also familiarize myself a little bit more with the NEZ and the TERS.
Thank you very much. We're about.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you,
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
appreciate it.
And considering that the inner city housing summit's coming up on the 24th, and it says possible action, I don't know if this is premature or not, but I do have to get to class myself. I'd like to, I don't know if I want to officially motion it, but I'd like to see that at least I could get a chance to catch up, or I don't know how much more research we have to do. I think it'd be great to look at this after any of us attend the inner city housing summit.
Okay.
If we're available to.
When is it?
I believe it's April 24th.
Yeah.
And Councilmember Yelma said when she appointed me, I believe there was she touched base, or she asked that I could follow up to see if there was funding for us to, I believe it's a $60 or $70. I think they put it at $69.99 to register for this inner city housing summit. I don't know if there's funding available for us to request the city cover us as we're discussing this as EDAC, or I'll gladly pay my own way to go. I wasn't planning on attending, but now I will because of this purpose. But I think that I wouldn't like to take any action on this today. It's just as a newcomer, of course.
We'll look at that. So, is there anything else, Dr.?
Well, just, again, it was that recommendation to look at alternative opportunities regarding the existing NEZ. I know that Julian had made a very good presentation on the matter, and is it much needed? Yes, I believe the committee feels that we need to revitalize downtown in some sense or shape or form, but we're going to explore. The recommendation to the committee is to table this action as of today and explore other alternative ways to be able to draft another or include incentives in the existing NEZ to bring business or people to Laredo to incentivize it. So
Very good. Okay, well, good. Is there anything else on this topic that anybody, Arturo, I don't know if you want to say anything?
Do we have a concern if we have too many people attend the summit about creating a quorum?
No, because I don't.
No, if it's like a conference or an event that's open to the public, so long as you're not deliberating, I mean, the act allows for the.
Well, we can go to a separate room.
Yeah, sure, yeah, I know.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, then I so move to table this item.
Okay,
Well, it's just an agenda item to report.
yeah. Well, there was a possible action, so, okay, you make a motion.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll second.
Second, Mr. Maldonado, all those in favor?
Right.
Very good. Anything else?
Do we have to approve the minutes now that we have?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have the minutes, so, let's see, where are the minutes? Very good, Mr. Secretary. So, if you can go through the minutes.
You get an A++ for it.
My first meeting. Well, I set my own standard then, huh?
Yeah. Putting us to shame.
I hope not.
I guess they discuss, and I need a second page. But I guess everything is on the Vita, but I don't know if there's anything there on the, what we
last
discussed.
page.
Number 2 is
The
about
last
district,
page.
inner city housing.
Yeah.
It's the subcommittee that was formed.
Yeah, here they are. Okay. I so move.
Hear a motion? Approve the minutes, I hear a second. Mr. Dickey, all those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Anything else?
I'm sorry, oh, Ms. Hernandez had a correction.
Under Rosario Cabello, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth paragraph is still DOE.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry? If you look at the first page back, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth paragraph, under Rosario, it says DOE.
Does. That's
Yeah,
probably
it should be an
does.
S.
Okay.
Should say does.
Okay. Did you want to vote again to approve it with
Yeah,
correction?
do I hear a motion to
I make
approve the
that
minutes
motion.
with that amendment? Mr. Dickey, Mr. Dominguez seconds it. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Anything else? Just one thing. Y'all have agenda items, please, and I'll give you my email. I want your email. Send them to me. Sometimes we all get busy, so do need to have agenda items so we can present. We also gonna, I don't know if you have a list of our meetings. I'll send you that also. I don't know if you know, and we'll talk about it after the meeting. There's a strict policy where if you miss 3 out of 12 meetings in a calendar year, you're banned for 5 years.
Wear the scarlet letter of
That
absence.
was, he put that
I have
line.
plenty of those letters. For other parts of my life.
So yeah, you're like banned in Siberia for life.
It's like Survivor, you go to abandoned
Yeah.
island.
More
So
abandoned.
anyway, any agenda items, y'all please send them to me. I know Mayra, you can send me some. With that, anything else?
How do we attract millennials?
Now do I hear a motion for-
Downtown?
Well, I know you've got more than one at the table. A question would be, I will be attending the Inner City Housing Summit
Hey, Roger.
now that I'm aware of this initiative, so if anybody has any questions, plans, or anything after that.
Yeah, and email us, and, you know, we don't.
I will be in Arkansas that week.
You can email and.
Sounds exciting.
We can also get together as a subcommittee, you know, you get, as long as we don't get more than 4,
Okay.
we're fine, so we can meet, you know.
Yeah, when I have my notes
Some
from
of these guys don't buy it.
housing and urban development and everything else, so I'll see what I can bring. Is this a monthly meeting you guys get together?
Yes, we have. I will send you a list of our.
Okay.
First Thursday.
First Thursday, okay.
Yeah.
First Thursday,
Free lunch.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I was like, I'm gonna eat, and they're like, no, there's food. I said, okay. No, I'm gonna take this in class, so, okay, well, thank you so much. I
well, very good. Do I hear a motion for the adjournment of the meeting?
I'll move.
Ordenados, hace catar todos and first. Those seconds, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
And I'll
Our
leave
next
my-
meeting is on the 10th, right?
Christine?